Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 70.
We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldeman Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land.
Welcome to Let's Be Well Together. I'm Julie Wilson, and I'm here with John Webster. And John, what do you want to talk about today?
Back to another article, Julie.
Awesome.
I like talking to you about
articles.
articles because both of us read a lot and we like books and all that kind of stuff. So this one was in the Washington Post and it was published on August 22nd, 2022. The author is Alyyson Chiu, and it says, "Nature can affect human well-being in many more ways than you think." That was the title. And of course, I love that because I love nature and I love reading about how nature can help.
You and me both.
I thought I knew it all in a way. And so this is saying there's a lot more that I don't know, that the natural world can contribute to people's overall well-being through a host of intangible effects. And it says, it doesn't go through them all, but it says researchers have identified 227 unique pathways through which people's interactions with nature can positively or negatively affect well-being, according to a paper that was published. 227, I wouldn't have guessed that.
I would not have guessed that either. This article made me think of the studies that have been done about individuals who live on islands surrounded by water, or just in general, individuals who live near water, and longevity and the health benefits that they have. I've often found those so fascinating. Does that really make a difference? And it seems, based on these articles, that yes, for sure, nature, water, is one of those things that can create those benefits to just feeling good.
It's one of the things I love where I live. Waterloo region is an amazing place, and we're not really prone to any major natural disasters. Lots of paths, lots of amazing things. There is a river, but the one thing I lament is we don't really have that big body of water. Right?
Yes.
So I can't sit on the side of either a lake or an ocean listening to the waves roll in. I don't get that feeling. I love that feeling of being around water. It has a very calming effect on me.
It does. It totally changes your outlook on life. Think of meditation, or sometimes when you want relaxing, it's often water, right? Water trickling or water.
The noise.
Right. Often used for that calming effect. Think about when we're born. We're born into liquid, right? Or we exist. I guess we develop in liquid.
Well,
right?
I don't really remember much about that.
I know. But it's all
probably connected
somehow. All that water and the benefits. Think of life in the ocean. But we could probably talk about water and oceans for a long time. But I don't think that's the only aspect of nature that provides benefits. There's so many others. You talked about trails and walking and forests.
But what I love about the water one is I think a lot of people, myself included, you can actually feel something happening when people are telling you about water. So I like that analogy. Something that really surprised me and what I liked about this article, it says researchers found that the highest positive contributions were seen in mental and physical health. And then they listed some things that have a good impact, and their recreation, tourism, aesthetic value appeared to have the greatest impact on human health through a regenerative mechanism. And I've been trying to figure out, because we like to have a lot of our What's on Your Minds, we have travel series. So Sammy talked about her travels, Elise talked about her travels. We're going to have a new host who's going to be talking a little bit about her travels.
Oh, fantastic.
And I know that somehow it's connected. And I was thinking of it more in terms of social wellness.
Right.
Either meeting new people or spending time with family. This is suggesting too, which is something that it should have been self-evident, which is tourism has to do with nature too, right? We're seeing the planet we live on. We're building bonds to the planet. We're spending time near water and trees and all that.
I had friends who recently did forest cleansing. Have you ever done forest cleansing?
I've never heard about it. I've never heard the term.
No, but it's supposed to be an amazing and just not necessarily a spiritual experience, but just another form of bathing yourself in what the forest gives off, what the trees give off, listening to the sounds, taking that time.
What do you think it is? Like, how do you envisage what it actually is?
You spend a couple hours in the forest. You're just wandering and guided through the forest. And I don't know the whole ins and outs. I've never done this, but I've just heard from others that it's an incredible experience after you're done. So
it's kind of like a mindfulness exercise, but instead of like focusing on your breath or how you're feeling, you're letting the forest sounds and smells, the environment, and feeling.
You're taking the environment in and the nature in.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about it quite a few times that we've heard about studies too that how there's an impact on your cortisol levels.
Yes.
When you're walking through. So I can imagine, I just know from experience, like just like, you know, when you were talking about water and I could kind of picture the good feeling about being beside a body of water. If I close my eyes, it's very easy for me to imagine walking through a forest and smelling that fresh forest smell.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And just getting this calming feeling as I do it. So I think it probably makes a lot of sense.
We talked about forests and the cortisol and the levels, and I don't know the exact term of what the trees give off, but apparently trees closer to water give off even more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, the closer you are to a body of water in the trees, it's an even greater effect. So I thought that was interesting, linking again water and trees, forests, and the benefits of what humans can get from.
Another thing I liked about the article too is because it's always like nature, it's all great, everything related to nature is fantastic. But they say you got to think about it, because if you have a well-designed park, it can be a place of recreation and leisure, connecting with other people, lots of good stuff. But if you have a poorly maintained natural space, you can end up with something ugly, a visually threatening landscape, and it might make you feel uncomfortable or even scared. And another reason why it's not just good to make nice parks and keep them in good shape because they're fun to be in, but if you don't, you might start creating anxiety in people.
Now, I'm just going to throw a little twist in there. On the other hand, if you have a perfectly planned out park, for some, that may actually cause anxiety because, right? So there could be the opposite effect. You could have a beautifully landscaped park, but for some, you're sort of taking away that natural element to it. And so they may cause it. Right.
It's not natural, it's unnatural.
Yeah. So for some, it's aesthetically pleasing and it gives them comfort, but for others. So I just thought that was an interesting twist on that comment, and what they found is for some that may work, but for others it may cause a little bit of.
Yeah, I guess that just makes us need to try and figure that kind of stuff out, right? So there are people who spend time thinking about how to develop parks and what they should look like and how people react in them, and that's the kind of thing they should think about. If it starts to look too clinical, too antiseptic, or too symmetrical, maybe you don't get the benefits of nature like you might in something that's a little more natural.
Exactly.
There's a lot of really great stuff in the article. I wonder, maybe someday I'll be able to figure out what some of the 227 things are. But for sure, I'm not surprised to hear that nature can affect us in ways we don't even imagine.
And there was the one statement that doctors can prescribe.
Oh,
Did you read that? Doctors can prescribe park passes. And I thought, wow, maybe I should go to my doctor and ask if I could get a park pass prescribed. But no, to be fair, I thought that was an interesting comment. I haven't heard of that happening, but
I think it's amazing.
It's a great idea.
I actually read something from a U.S. article kind of saying that's pretty cool. Up in Canada, a doctor can prescribe, I think it's like a discount to get into a national park because, it maybe saves a little money to go do it, but you're going to get some benefits from it.
I saw so many individuals, like the parks, conservation parks around our area. So I live in Milton, and there's a number of conservation parks. During COVID, John, the numbers. Right? Just to get out and get into nature, just the numbers of individuals using the parks. I would love to see the numbers just pre-COVID and during COVID. And if individuals have continued, it'd be interesting to see those numbers. But I
used to live out there too. I know you're talking about Kelso, you're talking about Rattlesnake,
exactly.
You're talking about Crawford Lake. there's more and more, and so many beautiful places. I was able to enjoy them, and I know why people were going out there. And though, kind of one last thought, though, it's not all happy either, because the truth is, for the most part, as the article points out, in the modern world we live in, people tend to disconnect from nature. And
sad.
It's kind of like I used to talk about how I used to live too intellectual and apart from my body, thinking that somehow to get to happiness, it's going to be beyond the body. And it took me a long time to realize I had to be in my body. That's when I'm going to get the most fulfillment, like connecting with my body. It's like that with nature too. People seem to think that, I don't know why, like they disconnect from nature. They don't spend time in it. They think that's the place to be. And that, being in nature is maybe even dirty, right? It's sweaty.
Yeah. Well, and they talk about in the article of the ecological amnesia.
Right.
And the more we step back from taking those walks, from reflecting or doing a forest cleanse, how quickly we might forget what is nature really? What does that mean to me on a day-to-day basis, right? And how quickly you could forget that.
The great thing about that expression is it makes so much sense. The amnesia, it's like you forget that it's even important. It's not that you're rejecting it.
Right.
You're not actually consciously disconnecting. We've just evolved in a way that we've let ourselves have amnesia to when it comes to the benefits that nature can bring.
And I hope that doesn't happen
for
our kids, right? They benefit from, everyone benefits from nature.
Let's remind people. Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds.
Today's interview is in the category of artistic wellness, but also in many other categories. It's Sheila here, and I'm here with my sister, Laurie Flanagan. On episode 31, you may have remembered that I talked to Laurie about meditation. Today, we are talking about putting on a stage show. Welcome, Laurie.
Hi, nice to be here.
Laurie Rose is a high school teacher of the arts and religion for over 30 years. She's a dancer, grandmother, and mother. She's an avid yoga practitioner. She has a passion for writing and aspires to enrich, inspire, and encourage the imagination of children through the art of storytelling. In her work, storytelling is a major component of all her creation and teachings. She can be found on Instagram at author L.R. Flanagan. Today, Laurie's going to talk about her high school show that she put on last year. And I actually got the privilege of going to see it a few weeks ago, and it was absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
So let's talk about how it goes to put on a show. Like, how long does it take? How do you start and go from there?
All of those things. We started in June of 2022.
Okay.
And at that point, we decide what musical we're going to do. We have a discussion with the music teacher because it's really important for the music teacher to be part of that discussion. The band, what they're going to be able to play.
Right. So the music teacher is actually the band teacher, or is she also the one that teaches the kids their songs?
No, she teaches the band.
She teaches the band.
Yeah. So we have a pit band and about 8 instruments, and she directs and teaches the band.
Okay.
All of them can read music, which is really great.
That is really great.
Yeah.
And I must say, the band was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, thank you.
And so was she.
She is fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, she's fabulous. And then we have a vocal teacher as well.
Okay.
Yes. But the music teacher with the pit band is the one that's really important in choosing what musical we're going to do based on the abilities of the students at that time. So we started that in June of 2022, and we chose High School Musical, the musical, because we felt that the kids or our students needed something that would bring them together and also be really happy. We wanted positive vibes. We wanted a really happy musical for this year.
It really does. I mean, the main song in High School Musical is "We're all in this together," you know, and it really throughout the whole thing brings everyone together and talks about all the diversity and problems that they're dealing with. It's a really great musical.
Really great musical. And was fun for all levels. So everyone knows the music to some degree. It wasn't difficult to teach the music because they're familiar with it. Yeah. So we started by getting the rights to the musical in June of 2022. And then we introduced it in October of 2022 by auditioning students that were interested in leads. And then from there, we started a rehearsal schedule. that takes us right up until our performance, which is April 25th to the 27th of 2023. So approximately 6-7 months of work.
And how often did you rehearse, and how was the rehearsal schedule set? Like, do you start with the leads? Do you start with the songs? Do you start with the script? How does that work?
Good question. So we sort of integrate everything. I started with We're All in This Together, the final piece, the finale, because it's the biggest piece. It was going to coordinate all the kids. And then also because I wanted to bring them all together and learn something to start the whole experience.
Right.
They also performed that in November of 2022 at our grade 8 orientation.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So they had an opportunity to perform just that piece. So we worked on that first. And then after that, we went back to the beginning of the show.
Okay.
And then our rehearsals were 2 hours, twice a week. And we would have some time set aside for blocking, and then some time set aside for learning the song, and then bringing both of those things together with some choreography at the end, about 30, 40 minutes, depending on how much work we've tried to get through. Near the end, it all comes together in the sense that you're doing choreography, blocking, and learning the song all at the same time for the reason of time. We run out of time. And also because they're knowing it better. So you can move through things faster. Yeah.
Now, just for those who don't know, blocking is when you're going through the motion in between all the acts, and you're actually telling people where to stand, how to stand, what angle to stand, up and down, and you're doing all that. Believe it or not, it's almost like choreography. The kids are organized exactly in a certain way, even though there's no music going on.
Exactly. And then we also had to block how we were moving the set pieces. Set pieces moved throughout the show. So who would move those set pieces, where they needed to go, and how they would be integrated. That's a whole nother piece.
It is. Very true.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about any hiccups that happened? Like any stories, or were there any hiccups, or does everything just smooth sailing?
Nothing is ever smooth sailing in the arts. And you never really know what's going to happen.
Never.
You hope for the best and you accept the result. And
Yes.
it's always great.
Yes.
But it's not what you expected.
No.
So we think we prepare for everything. But what we didn't prepare for in choosing this musical was that we wouldn't have any boys or male identifying students audition for the roles, the lead roles of Troy and Ryan. So that was interesting because it brought up a new challenge. We did have some boys audition, but their vocals weren't strong enough to carry a lead role.
Right.
Neither were their theater background or their dance background. We had really strong females audition. So I spoke with our principal and I said, given that we only have females, strong females auditioning, the roles will go to a female. In regards to Troy, Ryan, the main male roles in the show, as well as the basketball team was going to be an all-girls basketball team. There were a couple boys that were part of it, but it was, co-ed or all girls. So that was an interesting dynamic that we were met with. And we were then deciding how we were going to approach this play as a mainly all-female cast. So we decided that since we're tied to the script and the copyright, we can't change names. We can't change character identity. That the girls would play the character as a boy. And then it was really open to the interpretation of the audience in terms of how they interpreted the gender of the students, which was interesting because students did interpret it from their own experience.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes. And being someone watching it, I felt that it was very open as well. Yeah.
So we weren't really directing the audience to interpret it in one specific way.
They could interpret it however they wanted.
That's right.
So it's a lot of work. Let's talk about some of the benefits. What did you see? So let's do the benefits from the students participating.
So the students benefit socially for sure. We find that most of the students that come out for a musical at our school, because we're not an arts school specifically, are a variety of students. We have a variety of skill level. We have some students that have experience. We have some students with no experience. We have kids with special needs. We have students that are different age groups. We have, just a variety of diversity of groups.
Now, I know you said you did auditions, but was everyone welcome to be part of it?
Absolutely.
Right. So if you wanted to be part of it, you could be in it.
That's right.
No matter. Okay, that's awesome.
Either backstage or on stage.
Yes, whatever you wanted to do.
That's right. Or in the music. Yeah. So there was a place for everyone, literally. Yeah. So the students benefit socially. A lot of students that came out this year were looking for a group, a community to be part of, and friends, really friends. To the point that sometimes they forgot that we were there for a musical.
Right.
And I had to tone down the fun and remind them that we have a goal, which is the show.
And
April
a time.
25th. And a time that's limited. So we need to get to work.
Yeah.
And they would gracefully accept, but often I had to remind them that, hey, come on back. We're working on choreography or something. So they had a lot of fun, and they got to know a lot of different people, and they really began to experiment with script and with character and just grow outside of what they thought they could do. All of a sudden, they're becoming a center of their own lives, and their light is shining. And I think that's why I do it, is to see the growth in kids and see their light shine. So there's social benefits, there's emotional benefits there, because now when you're struggling, and students are struggling often, they have a community of support. So sometimes when they're not in a rehearsal, they're just sitting and waiting for their time to come up, they'll be working on math. And because there's different group levels, different ability levels, they'll find someone that
could help them with math.
Yeah, or
'cause
help them with an essay.
That's a great thing I think about doing extracurriculars as well. Things like musicals is you're working with all ages. You've got grade 9s up to grade 12s. Whereas sports, you got the juniors and the seniors and, or anything that is age limited, arts are not. So
Exactly.
you're a grade 9, you're working with grade 12s. Yeah. And you get to know each other and you actually see each other in the hall and you wave at each other.
Exactly.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that build inclusivity into a school, which is so beautiful. And everyone benefits. So they benefit socially, they benefit emotionally, they benefit intellectually, they're physically getting up and doing things and moving their bodies. So there's no limit to how much you benefit when you do an arts project like this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It is a time commitment for sure.
For sure.
But it is so worth it. What about parents? Did you hear anything about parents? Did they comment on their kids participating and that type of thing?
Parents are thrilled. Thrilled. And every time I've done a musical, so this is my 6th musical in a high school environment. And every time I do a musical, parents are thrilled. They're thrilled to see their kids on stage. They're amazed that their kids are doing it because they sometimes don't see their kids acting in this way or performing in this way. And they just didn't see that in their children. So their children surprise them, which is so great. And it's just a celebration. It's a beautiful celebration of achievement. Yeah.
And what about the other teachers? What do they get out of it? Like, what do you get out of doing this? Because this is a huge commitment and a lot of work, and it's not mandatory for you.
No, it's not mandatory for me or the teachers or the students. Everyone does it on a volunteer basis. The teachers, so I pulled together a team. In the past, it's been a small team, 3 maybe teachers. This year, I had 7 teachers, which was great.
Really good.
Really, really good. And the teachers that were working with me were new to the environment of putting a musical together. So there's still a lot of coaching from my end, but I'm hoping that in the next musical each year, they'll get stronger and be able to make more and more decisions on their own. So I have a EA that works on costumes. I have 2 teachers that work on tech. I have another teacher that assists me with the directing. And then I have a vocal teacher and a pit band teacher. And then I had another teacher that just worked on doing front of the house for me.
Oh.
Because she wanted a project, but she couldn't be at the rehearsals because she also does sports. So I gave her the front of the house, which was like setting up the tickets sales, setting up the roses. We had flowers for sale and the
candy and
the photo booth. She did all of that and did a great job, but it just takes one thing off my plate. Any one thing is awesome. And what we get out of it, I think a few things. First of all, I think when teachers work together and they collaborate in this environment, same thing as when students are collaborating, we get stronger as a teaching community. And we also see the kids differently. All of a sudden, you see their potential and their strength and them being great people. And the job becomes more fun for everyone. Yeah.
That's great. And now let's talk about the arts. I know that arts generally is your life because you've been a dance teacher just like me and very artsy. But what about in the school? How is art important to the wellness of a school?
I feel that arts are the heart of the school. So for me, arts education, I've always been advocating for arts education for students. And first of all, the most important thing is the creative process. Mm-hmm. So students learn to take risks, make mistakes, get through those mistakes, and find a beautiful ending. Every time a mistake happens on stage, I sit back and I watch and I think,
what's going to happen?
What's going to happen? How are they going to get through this? And they get through it and they hold each other
however
together.
It happens. Like if someone runs off stage, that happens. Like whatever happens, it's interesting to see what everyone else does or how they grow from that. Like,
And the magic of that, is just beautiful. And the fact that they realize that together they can do anything, right? So they get all of that through arts education. They get all of those opportunities to learn to fail and move through those failures and find achievement, right? And find that goal of accelerating their growth. And then there's also, emotional. They learn how to emotionally regulate because you have to be able to just put things beside you and get out on stage and perform and then come back with an open mind to whatever it is you might be dealing with. And that, you'd be surprised how often kids come to rehearsal. They've had a bad day at school. They do rehearsal. Then they walk away and they feel better. Now they're ready to deal with that math quiz that they have tomorrow or whatever it is that they're struggling with. So emotional regulation and then also building friendships. We can't have enough of that right now of kids coming together, learning to build friendships, learning to build through conflicts and also learning how to support one another on and off the stage, in and out of the school, everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So awesome. The arts are so important and it's great that you do that. And it was great that you did this musical.
Thank you.
Good job. We ask every guest the same question, and we were at that point in the interview where we're going to ask you the question. And I know that you've already answered this once. So it's your turn to see where you are in your wellness. So this is a little wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, what is one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
So this time of year for teachers is a tough time. We are exhausted at this time, and we've given everything we have in the tank. So we're moving through June, which always kind of lifts me back up. So I would say that in order to come back in balance, I have to bring that spiritual side back into my life because that gets pushed aside when I'm dealing with tasks. It's just so task oriented. And spiritual side being sitting by the water, just being in the park for a longer amount of time than a quick walk through in the morning, but just giving myself time to just be present and fill my own tank. So that spiritual side, meditation, yoga is part of that as well, but really just being in nature. Yes.
That sounds great. I love doing that. Yes, it just takes time. So
Takes
hopefully
time.
you find that and you get to fill that tank. Thanks for joining us, Laurie.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of The Adventures of the Starving Artist. Lots of cool stuff on the go this week. Another bit of a whirlwind kind of time, but it's all good. Today's Victoria Day, so happy Victoria Day. And despite it being a holiday Monday, I do have some lessons to do today. But it works out. I've had a few people taking the holiday off, and that buys me a little time, which is cool, because I have a deadline of tomorrow for a project. Very quick turnaround. Little backstory for you. 2 years ago, it was actually just before I moved here, or just after? Right about the time I moved up to Ottawa. A guy named Drew Thomas, connected with me out of Toronto, and basically he was a connection to a potential gig, an audition really, where I was submitting my voice to voice a snowman in a commercial that you may have seen around wintertime. It was a Coors Light commercial, and the snowman was singing part of Boston's More Than a Feeling. So I submitted my take and sent it in. Unfortunately, I wasn't selected. No harm, no foul, right? Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. My mom likes to remind me of that too. Fast forward to this year, a couple days ago, he gets in touch with me again via email and says, hey, I know it's been a couple years. Basically, I've got another one. So this one, I'm not sure what I'm allowed to tell you, so I'll tread carefully here. It's a section of the Cheers theme song, you know, where everyone knows your name. Norm. Yeah. Cheers, right? So it's part of that, and it's for a cereal company. So if I get selected, then my voice might be the one used in the broadcast of this particular cereal commercial. So kind of a cool opportunity. Wish me luck. I'll be recording that later tonight after I get the handful of lessons that I do have all wrapped up. That's the big exciting news. To be honest with you, I'm really excited about that because that's the kind of work I would really love to be doing more consistently. It's remote. The turnaround times are sometimes pretty short, like this one, but reasonable. And if I get it, and ideally get a few more and get, consistently on that radar, it could be a pretty sweet career path or tendril or another hat to wear, depending on how you look at the music industry. But that's the quick skinny. Thanks for tuning in. Wish me luck. Hopefully I get it, and I'll let you know as soon as I do. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
Hello, everyone. It's Elise Seifert here, joined by Julie Wilson. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. So I think we're going to talk about how we reframe exercise.
I love that because I think I'm the kind of person who always used exercise as like a punishment almost, I think. But yeah. I've recently been really trying to reframe how I look at exercise and what it can do for my body.
Exactly. There was a saying recently, and I think you and I chit-chatted about this, about exercise snacking and about reframing our terminology, right? And yes. So that was one example, I think you and I talked about that, about how to reframe, so just even the terminology, but there's definitely ways to think about just the benefits, right? And I think that's a lot of it is when you're reframing, is thinking about the positive and the benefit side of it. And I think there's a lot of really good examples.
Definitely. I found this social media post, and it was posted on Instagram by a handle called Wellness Made Easy with a Z. And nice. In this social media post, it has different ideas about exercise that are either critical, so self-criticism, and then how you can reframe them to make them more loving towards yourself, so self-love. I'm wondering if maybe I could read the critical ones, and then you could read the self-love. So I'll read one, and then you read one. Perfect.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So I'll start with the first. So this is a critical one, self-criticism. I exercise because I think my body needs to look a certain way.
Self-love, on the other hand, would reframe that as I exercise because I enjoy moving my body.
Our next self-criticism is I use exercise as a punishment for eating.
And I'm going to reframe that to say I exercise to support my mental health.
Our next self-criticism is I use exercise to earn certain foods.
But I would say I exercise because it is a fun way to reduce stress and anxiety.
Our next self-criticism is I feel guilty and ashamed for skipping a workout or resting.
And my self-love reframing would say, I love how strong and capable I feel after a workout.
And finally, we have, I focus solely on burning calories when I exercise.
Ooh, but if I reframe it, I'm allowed to take rest days without feeling guilty. I like that one. I do like that one because when I get going on my exercise days, if I miss a day, you feel guilty because you've developed that pattern. I like that. I'm going to remind myself that it's okay to take a day off.
It is okay. I know sometimes I struggle with that, especially when I'm sick. And I know,
oh gosh, yes,
it's so important to take those rest days when you're sick, because if I continue to exercise while I'm sick, I just do not heal as quickly. So I think that's an important time for me to remember that self-love. I know.
And another good point too, a friend of mine and I were chit-chatting about that your body will reach that plateau, right? If you're doing the same thing, or not even the same thing, but you're exercising like regular, and you don't give the body pause to let's restart and I'm going to gear up again, right? So it's like those, okay, I'm going to refocus now, reset, and get off that plateau and start up again. She had a trainer who said, if you don't take those pauses, you won't get off that plateau. Let's start climbing that mountain again, type of thing.
I love that. I know when I first started exercising regularly at a gym, I was in university and I would go every single day, 7 days a week. I would be at the gym and I would follow some programs that I could find online. And I would often opt to skip the rest days. And I did find that I plateaued because I wasn't giving my body time to recover and my muscles time to recover and grow. And it's so important.
Exactly, because your muscles will just, you do develop that muscle memory and it just becomes routine for those muscles. And you want to challenge them, right? So pause and then let's go again, right? With your muscles. So, and it goes back to the whole reframing and, loving your body, appreciating it for what it is. But that's not to say that there are times where you need to get out. And if it's every day, well, it's every day for you. But always remember that it's okay to take a pause. I've got to remember it's okay to take a pause.
Definitely. I do love how a lot of the self-love affirmations here really focus on the benefits of exercise beyond just how it makes your body look. Because I do think a big focus for a lot of people for exercising is to change the way that their body looks. And that often can't really be a satisfying way or satisfying motivator to exercise because not everyone's body is the same. And sometimes people don't really acknowledge that, you might not be able to look like another person because you have your own body.
Exactly.
So I think shifting the focus to understanding that you exercise because it feels good, it supports your mental health, it's a great way to celebrate your body. I think that really changes how you can motivate to exercise. And I've also seen a social media post where they said, I'm not training for my summer body, I'm training for my old lady body. So essentially building those dense bones and increasing your muscle capacity because exercise helps you to live longer and live healthier.
Exactly. And that's what I need right now.
Yeah.
To get that bone strength.
Definitely.
I'm on that end of the spectrum. At least you're on the other end of the spectrum. If we're talking age here. I'm giving away a secret for all those listeners.
No, but these are great. And I think it's a great way to really change your mindset around exercise and to really help you love exercise.
Yes, I agree. Let's rethink, reframe, and enjoy its positive energy.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. I was getting closer to the end of my run and I could just almost taste dinner. I was kind of hungry. I don't get hungry actually when I'm running, but if I start thinking about the flavor of food, sometimes my mouth will start to water. I want to eat something. And I had made some enchiladas and some Mexican rice. I have this pretty simple Mexican rice recipe and I think a relatively authentic enchilada recipe. And what happened was I never used to experience this until I started eating more and more real foods, until I started actually working with the spices and herbs that nature provides. And when I was cooking the enchiladas, I just had this beautiful aroma. There was a combination of all the smells of this delicious herbs and spices and food. And it really refreshed me. And of course, it also made me think how good the food was going to be. So when I was out for the run, I could almost smell that. You know how smells bring back memories? So I'm really enjoying this side of eating healthy. I don't do a lot of the cooking. Sheila does most of the cooking, and I'm really grateful to her for that. But when I do get a chance to do some cooking, I just love not only the healthiness of taking what nature has to offer us, but also the aromas and the colors. Right? So there's so many amazing things. When you are a little more careful about what you eat, it's more important when you do eat. At least that's my way of looking at it. So I want it to be kind of a more fulfilling experience. And when you get all that stuff working together, so as I was finishing my run, I could just taste what was going to happen when the enchiladas came out of the oven and had that amazing supper. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Flip Side of the Coin with Elise Seifert and Stephen Seifert.
Hello.
We are here today to continue talking about our personal relationship. And today we're going to be focusing on long-distance relationships.
Long-distance relationships are a drag, and anybody who tells you that they're not is deluding themselves. In fact, that's what we did because we were in a long-distance relationship for a number of years.
We were, and at the time you think, oh, this is great, this is fine, but really it was hard, it was a struggle. So we had returned from teaching English in South Korea, returned both to North America. I myself was living in Kitchener, Ontario, and Stephen, you were living...
I was living in Northeast Ohio, so the Akron area, if anyone is familiar with that. Yeah, so Elise, she was on a trip to Southeast Asia after her time in South Korea. And we decided that we were going to give it a go. We're both teachers and we were able to see each other a lot of times during the summer. It was great. We were spending weeks at a time together and we were just picking up that relationship where we left off in South Korea. When the fall weather hits, school starts as well.
That's right. So that meant that we weren't able to see each other quite as much, but we would make sure that one of us would drive to the other person once a month. It was about a 6 to 8 hour drive, depending on traffic.
Yeah, I would say that's true, especially if it was a busy time and the border really is what slowed things down.
Definitely. And we were lucky to live in a time where there were a lot of means of communication for us. So even though we didn't see each other all of the time, we were in constant communication through different social media apps. So that was a big help to our relationship. And I don't think we really realized how hard it was until we were living together and we realized how great that was.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when the papers came through that I could live in Canada permanently, it was such a relief. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, you know what? Long distance was really hard. I could finally admit it to myself. I think I had to tell myself, no, you know what? This isn't so bad. I get to see her once a month. Everything's fine. But it's something that you deal with because the reality is, if you think about it too hard, you're just going to be saddened or worse.
I think so too. And we say this all the time when we're together, just how much better it is just to be able to spend all of our time together. It's amazing. And when you're in those long distance relationships, you look at the weeks that you may be able to spend together and you think, wow, this is so great. We get to spend a whole week together. This is amazing. And then in the end, you realize people get to do that all of the time. They're so lucky.
Yeah. So we're the lucky ones now. We get to do that all of the time. I moved up to Canada, so it'll be 5 years this June. And I'm looking forward to a number of more years doing things together.
Me too. And I know something that people would always ask me while we were in our long distance relationship was, how do you do it? What are some tips that you have? And it's really hard for me to think
of tips to give other people. I think it's just really important, like any relationship, to find what works best for you.
Absolutely. It's finding those moments that you're together to make them count, whatever that is. And maybe that means going out to a concert. Maybe that just means spending quality time together, however you both see fit.
I think that's beautiful. And we'll see you
on the flip side.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. It's Sheila here with John and Elise. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
This week we were on holidays up in Collingwood, and we had a lovely time. It wasn't too hot. It was nice and cool at night, which was lovely. Two things that I would like to comment on. The first weekend, we saw the Hit Disturbers in Collingwood at our resort. And they are kind of a 50s band. And it was fun to mingle with other people who were part of our resort.
I think they can play anything. I think they were just playing 50s and 60s music because of the crowd.
Okay. So it was a little bit of an older crowd. So it was nice to mingle with all the people that we haven't really met with or mingled with. And also the amount of dancing that there was. Almost everyone got up and danced. There was so many people that there wasn't room on the dance floor most of the time. So that was really awesome. And also, it was the first time that we've spent a long time in Collingwood, and we actually really enjoyed cooking and hiking and enjoying just everything about it. So that was lovely. This week, I'm really hoping to get back into my routine, get some exercising done, get back on my eating plan, and back to work. What about you, Elise?
Oh, well, that sounds amazing. It sounds like you had a wonderful week.
We did.
For me, it's a bit of a crunch time at work. So that's a big focus of my last week and this week. Mm-hmm. But I did have some nice time, I guess some nice social time over the weekend, which was really great. Mm-hmm. And I have been able to bike to work at least twice a week in the last 2 weeks. So my goal this week is to go at least 3 times this week on my bike. And I think that's very manageable.
Yeah, that's great. Was it really hot there today?
It was a beautiful day today. So hopefully the week continues to be beautiful.
I think it will.
How about you, John?
I have too much to talk about. So I'll just hit the highlights or just maybe a little bit on each. So starting with when we were in Collingwood, Sheila's sister Laurie came up, who you heard on the interview today. And she said that she was going to do a dance at a music show where some people were going to do some jazz. She got us some tickets so we could see it. And I really didn't have any expectations. I wasn't even really thinking of it. I love jazz music. We get there and it's an amazing jazz group. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and plus the singer who's a friend of Laurie's, John McMurtry and Sherry Weldon, who set it up, Stacey McGregor on piano, Dan Ionescu, guitarist, Peter Telford was playing the double bass, John Collins is a drummer, and they were unbelievable.
They were so good.
Then we got invited to go to Owen Sound Cobble Beach to go golfing, and I golfed there. I haven't golfed in a long time. I usually golf once a year. Had a good day, a lot of fun with Greg and Pam and Kevin. So that was so cool. Today, I just got back because I'm the president of the Waterloo Region Law Association, I do greetings when judges and justices of the peace get appointed. So tonight I was at a justice of the peace swearing in ceremony, and it's really emotional, right? So for some of these people, it means a lot. So that was going on. So just way too many things, and work is so busy, and lots going on and lots of really neat stuff.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So here's to another great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.